Good morning. Welcome to episode 6 of the Bible in Plain Sight. This is Carol Evans. Thank you so much for hopping on and joining today. Today I wanted to share a brief thought on giving and worship and giving, and how do those two things align. So this past week I read a really interesting article that has just brought on a lot of conversations with David and I that I wanted to share with you today. And I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have a different perspective, if you were grow up in church, or maybe are at a church now and they have a different perspective, I would love to hear that. It's just something I feel like I'm diving into more. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So the article I read was from a personal finance class that I'm taking. I'm going back to school to Liberty University, and I am taking this personal finance class, and it's really been challenging because finance is not my number one area of expertise. I would rather take a class on anything else than personal finance. I don't mind budgeting, but personal finance really dives into more of like tax forms and different credit types, and those kinds of things are just not my favorite things to talk about. So it's been a bit of a struggle. But this particular article was so helpful, and it talked about, it linked to a couple, John and Linda, I forgot their last name. Anyway, they've also got a podcast I've been listening to. I'll link it here. But they talked about worship and giving. And growing up, I grew up very conservative Baptist. And so, and every church I've ever been a part of, not just the church I was a part of as a kid, but every church I've been a part of, tithing was just something that was kind of a known, you just did it. You know, it's just part of the Baptist way. I don't know. I think, and most Christians, I think, grew up with an emphasis of tithing, no matter what your denomination. But it was interesting because it was always just like, you know, you tithe on the 10% and you move on. And what this article really challenged was more of giving as a form of worship. And I've really honestly never thought about giving as a form of worship before. Maybe that's just me. I was talking to David about it. And I was like, babe, have you ever thought about giving as a form of worship? And he was like, yeah, I have. And I'm like, well, where have I been? But anyway, it was talking about, you know how like in the Old Testament, we see many examples of like tithing off of the 10%. And then we see examples in the New Testament of tithing, and they talk about it. They don't really reference the 10%. They talk a lot about, you know, we talk about giving out of the abundance. There's verses on giving from the overflow, giving from the first fruits. There's also, and I don't have the verse prepared right now, but there's also a verse that talks about giving not just from what, like of your funds, but also giving of what you have. So I think the example was like giving of your spices. If you are someone that works in spices, giving of your spices, or giving of different things that you have. So when you think about, you know, a builder, you know, donating their resources, donating their wood, or a carpenter donating his time. It's interesting when we think about doing that, but not doing it because we need to give to impress anybody, or just give because we can, or give because God's blessed me, therefore I want to bless other people. It's not giving like that. It's giving as a form of worship. It's giving our time as a form of worship, giving our talents as a form of worship. Not just giving our money and writing a check. So my challenge, and what David and I have really been talking about doing more, is not just writing a check and saying like, okay, here's my general amount I'm giving to the church. But instead of doing that, like praying over that and saying, God, is this the amount you want me to give today? Do you want me to give more? Is there someone sitting around me, or someone in my community, maybe that's not at your church, but in your community, that needs you to reach out to them? Maybe it's through an anonymous thing. Maybe it's sending them a meal. Maybe it's giving them a gift card, or just mailing them something. But it's doing it as unto the Lord and not unto man. So it's not something we need to post about all over social media, but it's being open and tender before the Lord. So when he impresses on your heart to give, it is giving to him and not to anyone else. Because if I sing at church out of the need to impress anybody else, then I'm missing it. If I give money and say, you know what, last year in our taxes, we gave so-and-so amount. This year, let's give more because I want that tax deduction. No, we're missing it. We're completely missing it. If we're giving out of anything from our heart, if we're giving of our talents, if we're giving of our time, and then it's like, well, you know what? I was there at the church like 3 hours last week, helping set up for some event. But if we're giving it unto the Lord, everything we're doing is out of worship. If before we sing in the choir, we say, Lord, I pray that you would use this song to bless hearts. I pray that you would make my heart tender. If everything we do, giving of our time, giving of our money, Lord, is this the amount you want me to give? There might be some seasons in your life where like 10%, you're struggling to do the 10%. There might be times in your life where you can give more than that. You can give above and beyond that. And I think just the effort of praying over our giving, praying over our worship before the Lord, and saying, this is to you and to you only. And it doesn't matter. I know there have been a lot of people, I've definitely in my life seen times where I gave money to something, an organization, and I was disappointed with how the money was used. And I thought, but I gave that so that you could use it for this. And they didn't. And I would say that's we're flesh, and that's probably going to happen until we all go to heaven one day. But we're not giving it to man. We're giving it to God. And what man chooses to do with that, they're accountable to God for that. So we're giving out of the abundance of our heart. We're giving out of a place of worship to God to further the global church. And so if there's a mission that you want to give to, or if there's something, not just giving as it's popular, not giving it because someone else gave to it, but giving it as unto the Lord and being open to the Lord to say, Lord, use this gift. Use it. I pray that you would just enhance it to further your word, that this gift would be used to bring others to you. So whether that's the 10%, whether that's more than the 10%, if someone comes to your church and you're just impressed upon them, if there's someone in the hospital and you're impressed upon them to go take them a coffee, praying over that coffee and saying, Lord, I pray that this would encourage them. This is not about me posting like #blessed as I go buy coffee for people. It's about, this is me. This is a relationship between me and God, and doing this as unto him and not unto man. It doesn't matter. When the Lord first put on my heart to start making these videos, I was so intimidated, and I'm still intimidated. And after almost every single video, I think, what am I doing? I should just take it down. I shouldn't do that. And I think, Carol, why are you doing it? Why are you doing that? Doing it as unto the Lord. I'm doing it as unto the Lord. And talking about things that the Lord has put on my heart. Not talking about things that I see are trending on social media, or not getting an idea from Instagram, because Instagram is real good about giving you suggestions of things you should do. But getting that from the Lord and worshiping in everything we do, everything we give, if it's our time, if it's our money, if it's your resources, everything we do, doing it as unto the Lord and doing it as worship to him. I hope that encouraged you. This is something I feel like we have definitely not conquered, but we're just diving into it, talking about more, and what can we do to do more of the normal stuff that we always do, but doing it in a more worshipful spirit, whether that's giving, whether that's just walking into church, in our connect group that we're in, our couples connect group, whatever we're doing it as unto the Lord and doing it through worship to him and not unto man. Happy Tuesday. I will see you all next week. And I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have a different perspective of giving and worship, please comment below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Thank you guys. See you soon.